Hey guys, Loman02 back with some more 93-94 content. So the deck you have in front of you is a Twiddle combo deck. I've highlighted this deck before on my channel, so I'm not going to cover the deck in detail here as far as deck tech goes. But the combination is pretty simple. You get down some number of Howling Mines, and then you get down a Time Vault, and you twiddle the Time Vault to take multiple turns while you're drawing 3 to 4 cards a turn. You can also use Sylvan Library as kind of like a verisimilitude of a Howling Mine, but not quite. Oftentimes, you'll take a pretty significant beating in the process of this, so you'll use a Mirror Universe to change your life totals, and eventually just fireball your opponent out. The deck only has one way to win, and that is the singleton fireball in the deck. I suppose you can also mill your opponent out. So there's two ways to win. There's a Brain Geyser and there's a Fireball. That's it, though. I have milled people out with Geyser before, but it is a significantly more rare way to win with this deck, despite this deck producing tons of mana. So, if you look at the sideboard, I have 3 Disenchants, 2 more Blue Elemental Blast, full complement to complement the 1 Red Elemental Blast of Rebs, another Hurkyl's Recall against the Artifact-based decks, some Relic Barriers, to turn off my own Howling Mines if I really need to in certain matchups, but oftentimes I don't find I bring them in. A City in a Bottle. It does get my Cities of Brass and my Loa, but otherwise it's pretty, decent in the deck if you're playing against Arabian Aggro, which is quick. And then one Icy Manipulator, which I think needs to go away. Because the barriers are probably just good enough. I probably need to take the Icy out and probably put another Blue Elemental Blast. Anyways, I wanted to highlight a series of games I played with this deck this evening against Five Color Dreams. Five Color Dreams is a really interesting deck. I think it's a much better combo deck than Twiddle Vault is. They're both density-based combos in the 93-94 format, but I think as a general rule of thumb, the Five Color Dreams deck is a little bit better because it has a better natural strategy, or correction, it has a better strategy against a lot of the other strategies that are out there. It basically punishes drawing cards, whilst being a Howling Mine deck. Despite both these decks being, family of Howling Mine decks, because I think, most combo decks tend to run Howling Mines in 93-94. They're just, as far as unrestricted card draw goes, probably the best at what they do. You'll tend to see them in like Winter Roar-based decks, where basically you can fight them on mana while still getting cards, and the card volume they get doesn't matter as much. Kismet Stasis decks, you'll see Howling Mine. You see Howling Mine in this more fringe Time Vault combo deck, and then in Five Color Dreams. The reason I say I think Dreams is probably a better combo deck as far as density-based combo goes is because I think in general, Underworld Dreams, especially if you're playing against non-disenchant decks, tends to kill a lot quicker. And at the end of the day, the key combo piece that's required for that deck to run, which generally speaking is either Black Vice or Howling Mine, is unrestricted, whereas this deck's primary means of combination is through Time Vault with Twiddles, because you have a ton of Twiddles, and Twiddle really doesn't do much other than possibly tap Howling Mines to keep opponents off draws for a turn. So in general, I do think the Five Color Dreams deck is better. But as, one of the few density-based combo decks in 93-94, I think they're both very, very sweet decks. I think the matchup's actually pretty interesting. That's what we're going to be covering here momentarily. So quick pause, guys. I'll be back here in a couple seconds with some gameplay of this deck versus 4/5 Color Dreams. Alright guys, back. So, this is a game 1. This hand looks acceptable in the opener. Then I see Black Lotus and I'm like, oh no. And then I see 2 Black Vices and a Howling Mine and I'm like, well, I'm probably going to die here. So, the plan has changed from using Library of Alexandria to draw cards to basically dumping my hand as rapidly as I can. I do Mind Twist them here to hope to get out any, additional combo cards that they may have. I just get 2 lands out, so there's really nothing of value in there. They play an additional Vice that they drew off the top here with help from Howling Mine. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose here. Losing the die roll, and then just, really this matchup, there's a lot of RNG in this matchup. It's kind of a high roll matchup as far as who wins, who loses. There's obviously play involved in it as well, but at the same time, your openers and getting the play or the draw is going to make a big difference. That said, our back's up against the wall here because they have multiple Howling Mines and multiple Black Vices. And if my hand fills up with land, which this deck does run a decent bit of land, then I'm going to be in trouble and I'm not going to be able to get them out of my hand. I do have these 2 vaults tapped. I think it was kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, whether I tapped them or didn't tap them. But because I wanted to expend my hand as rapidly as I could, I did end up using them, despite the fact that I know I'm going to take damage off of them. Unfortunately, they have a Reb as their last card. I go ahead and just twiddle one of my mana vaults. I didn't want to do that there, but I figure right now I'm just going to do it. I could do it during their turn as well, but I want to use my mana as efficiently as possible, and I really don't want that to get red because I want to take 1 less damage off of my vault. I go for a draw here after going down to 4 life. Now, my hope in this matchup is kind of interesting. So, I'm playing this game right now, even though I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to lose, because I am running 1 main deck Hercules Recall. I do not have main deck Disenchant. The one card that I really can't beat pre-sideboarding without getting really, really lucky and getting the play with a Channel Fireball, turn 1 kill, which this deck can do, but it's, the RNG for that is huge. You need to have Black Lotus, green or red source. Actually, I'm sorry, you need to have Black Lotus, red source, Fireball, Channel, and you can win, on turn 1, which is a thing this deck can do. But it's obviously a multi-card combo that is not very likely to come to pass. So what my hope is here, because I haven't been shown an Underworld Dreams, should be basically stone cold. I'd be stone cold dead to, is that I can use this Hercules Recall to bounce all of their artifacts on their end step, and hopefully combo off on my next turn, just win the game. So that's why I'm playing it out at this point, even though my likelihood of winning is not very high. That said, having a low life total is important because I am a channel deck. That said, however, going basically 1 is not 0 is kind of the philosophy of this deck. And due to the fact that I'm running Mirror Universe in the deck, it actually is sort of a good thing, but you're playing with fire to get your life total as low as possible. So they cast Underworld Dreams here, and, if they hit pretty well in their last 4, if they can kill me with their last 4, then I'm just dead. But I go ahead and Power Sink here. The expectation is that I can Hercules Recall on my next upkeep to save myself from dying. So they only have 6 mana available, so 7 is enough to actually counter this, but unfortunately they also have a Stormseeker, which is a card I don't commonly see in the Underworld Dreams deck, but they're apparently running. And it's not bad. I think it's a fine card. I do think it strains the mana a bit, but I'm just dead to it. I'm stone cold dead to it here. It is tough to counter as well. It requires a counter spell pretty exactly, or a Power Sink. To get it, you're not going to get it with Rab or Beb. I guess it's Mana Drain or Counterspell or Bust. So we die to that here, and we go into Game 2. So quick pause, guys. I'm going to jump back into the next game here momentarily. Alright, guys, back. This is actually the matchup, or the game that I really wanted to highlight. So, we have the play this time, which is pretty big in this matchup. I wouldn't say it's always necessary for this deck to be on the play. It definitely helps. We have a good hand. We have a decent hand. I go ahead and Ancestral on my turn because I'm looking to basically high roll right now. I want to get as many permanents down as I can, and I want to set myself up to establish a lock on the previous turn. Now, the one benefit that I have in this matchup is that we're both Howling Mine decks, so their Howling Mines are probably actually not the worst for me. If they're winning with them, they're bad for me, but if they play them and they don't get damage off them, they don't get value off of them immediately, then I can actually use the Howling Mines to my advantage. I go ahead and play a Fellwar Stone out here, assuming they're going to play a land drop next turn. They play Swamp, Lotus, into Underworld Dreams. Underworld Dreams is probably the card I want to see the least. My hand played around the Vices pretty well. What I was hoping for is they would go for a Howling Mine early, but they do not. Either they don't have it or they want to get this down first. And this is the operative piece to their deck. So I go ahead and Twiddle Vault here. I'm just kind of looking still to high roll right here. I really don't want to pass the turn back to them. I had a Mirror Universe, which is a pretty big game because I have Rev up this turn, and the next turn I can cast the Mirror Universe and leave it on the board. My guess is they're not running Shatters in their deck, but they may be. It's definitely a decent sideboard card. I go ahead and land the Mirror Universe here, thinking, hey, they probably can't kill me from 17, but the Underworld Dreams deck can also kill on turn 1, so it's possible they could. They play a Howling Mine out here. I can't really do anything about that. But right now, I'm not really that opposed to Howling Mine because I have this Mirror Universe. Now, I play my land out first, which may or may not be wrong, but I wanted to go for the Gusto on this. Now, this is actually an interesting play, so I'm going to Fireball myself. I'm not going to give them cards. I'm at a high enough life total that I assume, with them on 4 cards, unless they, hit very well off the Howling Mine in their next, draw step plus Howling Mine draw, then I'm going to be in an okayish spot. Now, the question becomes, what I probably should have done here, guys, is left up Felwar Stone, to be honest. I probably should have left up Felwar Stone, because what I'm hoping to hit here is one of two things. So I've sideboarded to this point. I have 3 disenchants in my deck, I have 2 Bebs in my deck, and I have 1 Reb in my deck, and I have the 1 Reb in my hand. The Bebs came in over the 2 Sylvan Libraries, and the disenchants came in over, I believe, 1 Felwar Stone, and I have to check the rest of the list. I think like 1 Mana Vault came out, 1 Felwar Stone came out, and there's something else I took out that was just too slow. So, anyways, I ended up leaving up the Volcanic Island, but I think in retrospect the better play was to leave up Felwar Stone here, just in case I high roll, hit one of my 3 disenchants, plus a Mox, and then I can disenchant the Underworld Dreams on my turn. So, going back to play here, I just go ahead and Brain Geyser, leaving up Reb or Beb. I miss on my Bebs, I miss on disenchant, so it doesn't end up being relevant. I don't get punished here, but I think in retrospect I probably should have left up the Stone, because they have City of Brass, so Felwar Stone is a rainbow land. They play out a Mox Ruby here. Go ahead and cast a Regrowth, getting their Lotus back. I assume they're probably going to cast another Underworld Dreams here. They go ahead and get Wheel of Fortune, though, because they want to do a bunch of damage to me. So I lose my hand, which unfortunately contained Fireball and Regrowth. So I am going to need to Time Spiral at some point in time, which means that I need to deal with the Underworld Dreams because I'm at too low a life total to actually survive. So this hand is looking pretty rough, because right now, I'm going to take a lot of damage off Underworld Dreams' Howling Mine. The good news is I was able to resolve a Mirror Universe early, so their life total is going to become my life total. The unfortunate thing is here that I'm not going to be able to... you can't, kill someone with Mirror Universe like you used to be able to back in the day, and even under EC rules, you're not able to do that anymore. So I go ahead and just dispose of the 1 Twiddle Vault, or the 1 Twiddle, to untap my Time Vault during the upkeep, so I take less damage off Black Vice. And now I'm hoping to high roll into one of these disenchants. I've yet to see 1 of 3 disenchants from my deck, so I'm hoping to hit one here. And I get very lucky in the draw here, and I hit disenchant. So in response to the 2 Howling Mine triggers, I go ahead and just cast a disenchant on the Underworld Dreams, so I can save the damage off of it. And get to Howling Mine twice. And now what I'm looking for is basically more Twiddles. So I get a Howling Mine down, go ahead and cast out another Felwar Stone, play land out, tap Felwar Stone, go ahead and Mind Twist them, leaving up 2 mana. And then, because I actually make a weird play here, I actually do Balance to get actually a land out of my hand. So Balance is kind of interesting in this matchup. And this is not the first time I've played the Underworld Dreams versus Twiddle Vault combo matchup. But Balance is interesting from the standpoint that, sometimes you actually use Balance in this matchup to discard cards from your hand, so you can play around Black Vice. Because the card velocity in these mirror matches is so high, you're going to be drawing, 4 cards on your draw step, basically, on my Time Walk turn off of Vault. I don't really need all the lands that I have. I basically just need 1 Fireball to win, so that means I am going to have to Time Twister or Recall to get it. I go ahead and discard 1 land, because more than 1 land for my next turn is no good. I can only play 1 a turn, right? I go ahead and hit Disenchant here, and Time Twister. So what I end up doing is playing a land out. I do disenchant the Black Vice, because, like I said before in the beginning of this, I actively want their Howling Mines in play. Their Howling Mines are doing work for me right now. I do find the Twiddle off of this Time Twister, find an Ancestral, find the Demonic Tutor, and then, they concede here, but what would have happened is I was going to find Fireball, discard a card at end step, go to my next turn, and then just, Fireball them for 2. And win the game. So the second game was actually really interesting, kind of a fun one to navigate. I do think we made a play here in using the Felwar Stone over the Volcanic Island on the turn that we left up Reb, as opposed to being able to leave up Beb, Reb, and possibly Disenchant if we hit a Mox plus Disenchant on the Brain Geyser to ourselves. But very, very swingy game, as you can see, between these 2 density-based combination decks. Quick pause, guys, and then we'll go into Game 3. Alright guys, back. So we're on the draw for this last game here between both these combo decks, which is pretty disconcerting because you definitely want to be on the play in this matchup. This hand is acceptable. It's got a Disenchant to deal with an early Underworld Dreams. Now, the one downside of this hand is it really doesn't have a great means of winning, but it does have the ability to control my opponent pretty well. I go ahead and disenchant their Howling Mine. I could have also tried to go for a transmute here to Twiddle Vault with their Howling Mine in play. What I opt to do instead is just Mind Twist them, which could have possibly been incorrect. But I also assume that their deck probably can't win with one card in hand plus a draw step and 2 mana sources. My assumption is they're just not going to win that way. So I go for this line and then figure that, with a disenchant in hand plus mana drain plus 1 Twiddle and a transmute artifact that I'm probably going to get there. Well, that could have been incorrect. I could have wanted to go for the transmute into Twiddle, but that leaves them with a lot of options if I have to pass it back. And it's certainly at this early in the game not an assured lock, getting to draw 2 a turn off of 1 Twiddle. So I think it was probably correct to just Mind Twist them here. But it was a closer line. Either way, Game 1 was kind of determined by RNG, just a high roll draw. And then Game 3 was kind of determined by RNG, high roll draw, just a random number generation. Got a very lucky draw like we had here. We were able to knock them out, vice their draw, which was a less fortunate draw in the matchup. I think really Game 2 kind of highlights the interplay between both decks the best. It's 93-94, and we're both playing aggressive combination decks. So I think, the swinginess that I think is inherent to 93-94 is exacerbated even more so in this specific matchup. But Game 2 kind of, I think, get to show some of the Rubik's Cube interplay between both decks. And obviously got to show the value of Disenchant versus the basically any Howling Mine deck, but Underworld Dreams deck specifically, because they're very reliant on that card to actually kill. It's more consistent killing than Black Vice is for sure. But it's also harder to deal with. There's a lot more ways to blow up artifacts easily in 93-94 than there are enchantments. So, anyways, I think it was a really, really cool game. I do think if you want to play a density-style combination deck in this format, I think you should go with Underworld Dreams. I think it's a better deck than Twiddle Vault is in general. But I do think both decks can win. I just think Underworld Dreams decks a lot of times get more free wins because their central combo is really just based around, an unrestricted card, whereas this deck that I'm playing is more so based around a couple singular cards like Channel, Fireball, and Time Vault, and then you have a lot more cards that I think singularly don't do as much. Now the same could be said for Underworld Dreams, because they're running cards like Winds of Change, which is really in and of itself not a great card. But once you have, Underworld Dreams on board, it's very, very good. So that said, I think both decks have liabilities, and both decks are going to have some volume of dead cards. But I think the volume of live cards tends to be higher in more games or more matchups for the 4 to 5 color Dreams deck. There's also some pretty cool 2-card combo decks in this format as well. If you want to try Power Monolith, which is just Power Artifact plus Basalt Monolith for infinite mana, which obviously combos pretty well with Brain Geyser, Fireball, and or Power Sink. Obviously, that's more of a 2-card or binary combination deck. It's kind of a mix. It's kind of a density-based and a binary-based combination deck. But I think in general, if you want to play density-based combo, these two decks are probably the 2 top density-based combo decks in the format. That rely on a lot of different cards to make the combo work. But it's really cool to see the interplay between both of them as well, because I think it leads to some very interesting games. I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay here. Game 2, like I said, I think was specifically the most interesting game. There's a lot going on there between Hurkyl's Recall, possibility of having to use Hurkyl's Recall, and then also the hunt for Red October / Disenchant in our deck, which we eventually got to secure a win in Game 2. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Try to do a quick one here just to show the gameplay between 4 to 5 color Dreams. I think there were 5 color Dreams, and then TV. I don't see a lot of TV getting played. It's probably because it's not that great a deck, but it's certainly very, very fun to play. And it's more of a high roll deck, but at the same time, it's also pretty fun to play because it leads to some interesting game states, interesting decisions. That can be very fun. It also leads to some feel-bad moments as well, because sometimes you just utterly miss. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and take care now.